Well, now, as the top campaign donor to U.S. President Donald Trump, Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units. The line item here appears to be for a $400 million taxpayer purchase of production units of armored Teslas.
Yeah, that's a lie. Donald Trump has literally no idea what Donald Trump or his little band of incels is doing in the government. You think, what do you think? He's following around? He's getting progress reports? No, he has no idea. He is owned by Elon Musk, so he has unleashed Elon Musk to go to harm his competitors, to benefit himself, all in the name of finding corruption, with the entire endeavor being the definition of corruption. And hey, we have an amazing example of it for today's show. The State Department apparently plans to buy $400 million of armored Tesla Cybertrucks.
Jesus.
Which is simultaneously wildly corrupt, considering that Elon Musk paid Trump's way into the presidency and is doing all this stuff. And also the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
You know, it's absolutely amazing how quickly the tables can turn, because a decade ago, Elon Musk was the darling of the left wing, was the darling of Hollywood, because he was pushing us forward in the green revolution with his electric cars. And also he was thinking about ways to revolutionize travel with ideas like the Hyperloop. And of course, in addition to that, he was running a space program that was eventually going to get us to Mars. And of course, the left-wingers that I showed in the open that were absolutely trashing him for getting a corrupt contract supposedly from Donald J. Trump absolutely loved the guy. They were so impressed by him. Again, he was in Hollywood movies, all these different other various things. And now all of a sudden, or actually it's been quite recently, after he bought Twitter, he is the devil incarnate. And now that he is aligned with the evil orange man, he's even worse. So you see hit piece after hit piece after hit piece going after him, going after all of his companies, talking about his products being absolutely terrible, even though these very same people were praising them before. So what we're going to talk about today is a segment from Rachel Maddow, how it bleeds into the left-wing media, and they end up regurgitating it with additional points. And I just think it's absolutely hilarious because, of course, what we ended up figuring out is that this story is completely false as reported. But before we get into that, I will remind you, DebateCon 5 is currently happening. The 15th, which is when I plan on releasing this video, and the 16th, tomorrow, when I'm set to debate at 7 p.m. Eastern. Link to tickets in the top of the description. It's in Newark, New Jersey, and I hope to see you out there.
So, since I think the only supposedly armored production vehicles Tesla makes are these hilarious trucks, this really appears to be the State Department announcing, putting in writing that it's going to spend $400 million buying these paperweights. From Elon Musk.
So Rachel Maddow is, of course, back at MSNBC, and she's already blundered. She's already reported something completely false, but don't worry about it. The last time she directly lied to her viewers about something of this nature, she was able to use the defense that her show is to make people feel better. She's just an entertainer and not an actual journalist. And yes, this is a real defense. It's the defense that all these different various media personalities end up using when they end up in court. However, of course, for Rachel Maddow, it worked, unlike with Tucker Carlson or with Alex Jones. Now, of course, everybody is focusing on her video on the Tesla contract, but I actually want to rewind one additional day to talk about how Rachel Maddow was really big mad, big angry that the evil orange man Donald Trump was no longer going to be subsidizing electric car charging stations.
Amid everything, did you notice the little announcement that the Trump administration has ordered a halt to all federal funding for electric vehicle chargers across the United States? EV charging stations? You might think that would be a problem for Trump's billionaire co-president, his largest campaign donor, Elon Musk, who runs the electric car company Tesla. But you know what? There's a reason he's not complaining, quite the contrary. And it's because Elon Musk's company, Tesla, already has the biggest private charging network in the country, bigger than all of his competitors.
Now, Rachel, of course, talks to her audience like they're idiotic children, which is the level of IQ that you need in order to consume the Rachel Maddow show on a daily basis. And then she goes on to say, when you think that might hurt Elon Musk, the lack of subsidies for electric car charging stations, you have to remember he actually has the largest private network of these stations in the country. So in reality, the federal government is just subsidizing his competition.
So, as he posted on his social media site last year, quote, "Take away the subsidies. It will only help Tesla." Well, now Donald Trump has done just that, leaving Tesla unchallenged as the largest EV charging network in the country, with no one really having any chance to catch up to them.
Now, again, just to give you an idea of the Elon derangement syndrome, she says this as if it's a bad idea that Elon Musk, without the subsidies from the taxpayer, ended up building an electric car charging network across the country that is workable in order to make his electric vehicles actually usable in the United States of America. And she says, oh, well, we're not going to be able to bust up his monopoly anymore because the federal government isn't going to subsidize the alternative stations. And again, I will ask you, if you want to incentivize people to invest their own money in electric vehicle charging, why would you then, after somebody actually does that, come in with the government and try to crush them economically because of their investment? You're essentially punishing Tesla for building out this network on the idea that the federal government is going to funnel billions in order to compete directly with them. And by the way, this program that Rachel Maddow is so big mad about them deciding to cut off was an absolute failure. Its budget was $7.5 billion. And by 2030, starting in 2021, they were supposed to build an electric car charging network that would be the envy of the world, you know, like Elon Musk already has, but this time through the federal government. Well, guess what? As of 2024, Pete Buttigieg and the Transportation Department managed to complete 8 charging stations. So we have a program of almost $8 billion. We have halfway or close to halfway to the target date of when it's supposed to be completed, and they only were able to build 8 of these stations. 8 of them. So again, this is an absolutely wasteful program, but Maddow doesn't care about that because it's all about hurting the evil Elon Musk because he's such a bad guy because he bought Twitter and he let people that disagree with Rachel Maddow on that platform.
This is a line item in the latest procurement forecast for the U.S. Department of State. It started circulating online today as the rest of the government and the rest of the country continued to contend with Elon Musk and Donald Trump's claims that, boy, they've sure found a lot of waste in the government. And isn't it great what they're doing? Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt for the president to put someone with billions of dollars in government contracts personally in charge of deciding what happens to government contracts? I mean, hopefully the State Department isn't planning on parking its $400 million worth of armored Tesla production units like under a walnut tree or like out in the rain.
Of course, if you've heard anything surrounding the reporting of this particular story, the way that it is framed by Rachel Maddow is that the evil orange man is enriching Elon Musk unjustly through the taxpayer purse by giving him this $400 million contract in order to produce these armored Teslas. But it turns out that all of the documentation, which by the way was available to Rachel Maddow at the time that she did this segment, showed that this was after the election, but before Donald Trump was sworn in as president of the United States of America. Again, a lot of this stuff is dated December of 2024. Donald Trump ended up taking office again in January 20th of 2025. So obviously this was a fake story from top to bottom, but another big indicator of how ridiculous this story was.
This is a line item in the latest procurement forecast for the U.S. Department of State.
You should pause for a moment and really ask yourself, which party wants to have armored vehicles, which are meant to serve the purpose of protecting the personnel in said armored vehicles, be electric? Which party says that we have to inject climate change and its agenda into absolutely every facet of everything that we do, including the procurement of armored vehicles? It's obviously the Democrats. This obviously 100% was always going to be a Democratic Party position, a Democratic Party policy. And it turns out, according to a bunch of different follow-up reporting, they actually let this contract out for the public. Anybody could bid on it, but the only company that produced these products that were specifically being asked for by the Biden administration was the company of Tesla. So they were the only company that put in a single bid for this, and that's why they were awarded the contract. In addition to that, Donald Trump has actually paused this particular contract due to the appearance of a conflict of interest. So Rachel Maddow's whole entire shtick about how, oh my God, they're trying to put money in Elon Musk's pockets and all that, it turns out the exact opposite is true. And by the way, when she was informed of this, when she was shamed, she didn't produce a retraction. She didn't apologize. She ended up producing another segment justifying her terrible reporting of this, sneaking in very briefly that this was a Biden administration program and pretending like nothing was done wrong on her end, pretending like she didn't jump the gun, pretending like she didn't misinform her audience.
Last night, we reported on this fiscal year 2025 procurement prospectus from the U.S. State Department. It is dated December 2024 during the Biden administration. This is after the November election, but before Trump was sworn in. And we reported on this last night because the single most expensive line item in the whole prospectus for the State Department's prospective purchases in 2025 was a $400 million line item for, quote, armored Tesla production units. $400 million worth of armored Teslas. Tell me more, edgelord of government efficiency.
Look, it's just pathetic how all of these left-wingers will push out this false information, this misinformation. They'll get caught in record time, and then suddenly, when you ask them to actually state the truth, they weasel around the accountability. And by the way, this obviously violates a general rule on this particular channel that I have tried to live by while conducting myself on said channel, which is if a story sounds like it confirms everything you already believe, if you think it's so good and you can't wait to report it, that is the story that you need to fact check extra. That is the story that you need to look into even more, because obviously your bias is motivating you. I mean, again, look at how embarrassing John Iadarola was in that other segment where he's talking about how, oh, the Teslas break down instantly and they're the worst cars ever, even though this guy was sucking on the Elon teat a decade ago when he thought he was on the left and that this was a green revolution.
Cybertrucks can't even make it through a car wash without breaking down. You have to worry about dead bugs ruining the finish. That's how poorly they're manufactured. And you think slapping more metal on top of them when they can barely function as it is a solution to all of our problems? So as he's going around, this is how cheaply people are bought and their identity politics nonsense. They say, Elon Musk found that USAID paid $30,000 for a trans opera, even though it wasn't USAID, it was the State Department, a totally different thing. So we got rid of 30,000, that's corruption. 400 million to Tesla. Do you know how many trans operas you could buy with that? I didn't do the math because it's too stupid to consider, but yeah, that's how cheaply they're bought. Now this is for 2025. I'm assuming they'll have to pay more once they start all breaking down. So that's really cool. And by the way, once this got out, it was so obviously corrupt that they decided to try to obscure it a little bit. And so the State Department removed the mention of armored Teslas to just say, no, it's gonna be armored electric vehicles. Oh, okay, well, I own a Chevy Bolt. Maybe it'll be those. Come on, Chevy, let's get some up-armored Bolts on the road. No, they're gonna do the stupid Cybertrucks because this is a payoff to Elon Musk. That's what they're doing.
This is like Trump's version of I never met her when there's a sexual assault allegation of Elon saying, no one ever told me you're the CEO, okay? Like he would never say that about X, right? Because it's like not, he shines on his different companies in different moments. But like if he just says, I didn't know about it, does that mean there's no corruption? This is a day after he's in the Oval being like, transparency is a thing because I am saying the word, and I wouldn't say the word if I wasn't being transparent. And Trump's like, we will take him off anything. Well, who's we, sir? Well, a Doge, mostly Doggy and Elon will make sure that Doggy and Elon don't have a conflict of interest. You see how that works? I mean, again, this is, this is them policing themselves because they are, John, anointed by wealth to police themselves.
Of course, Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks main show actually reported the story accurately, called out Rachel Maddow, and I give her credit where credit is due in that regard.
So this is where the story actually takes some twists and turns, and I would venture to say that the producers over at the Rachel Maddow show on MSNBC were fully aware of the dates involved on this procurement documentation. So bear with us as we go through the details. Ryan Grimm of Dropsite News first reported on this contract yesterday, but what Grimm reported is a little bit different from what Rachel Maddow reported. So let me give you the relevant portion of Ryan Grimm's reporting here, where he says that the State Department's procurement forecast, revised as of late December 2024, lists Tesla as the recipient of the largest expected contract, with Marco Rubio's department planning to buy $400 million worth of armored Tesla. The procurement forecast is listed as having been modified on December 13th, 2024, a month after Donald Trump's election. It was a month after Donald Trump's election, but it was obviously before he had been inaugurated, before he was officially in office. In other words, the State Department would have issued that contract under Biden's administration. The State Department reached out to Dropsite News directly, which sounds kind of scary, but it's not, because they wanted to say that the Tesla contract is actually now on hold. Dropsite News then updated their reporting accordingly, and they also reported that the new information about how the contract came to be, they say that the acquisition plan was set in motion by the Biden administration last year as part of a move to convert the Bureau of Diplomatic Security's fleet of roughly 3,000 armored vehicles into zero-emission electric vehicles by 2023.
But again, this was never a hard story to see right through immediately. First and foremost, the Trump administration has only been in office for under a month. So the idea that an appropriations bill would be passed, it would go to the Defense Department, and then the funding would be directed to Tesla, it seems like it would be a bit too soon for that. In addition to that, anytime you have this idea of greening up the Pentagon or greening up the State Department or having green armored vehicles or green tanks or green planes, obviously the party that is behind that particular agenda, who thinks that we should sacrifice our ability to fight wars in order to fight Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, climate change, is the Democratic Party. So yeah, it's absolutely embarrassing from top to bottom to see the left-wingers jump on this, although it is not surprising. Now, I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below, so I'll leave it off to you. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the Elon contract hoax. Till next time.